I've never really allowed you to probably get to know the person sitting in this chair. The people sitting across me don't necessarily have the answers either. And that's the beauty of it. We are not here pretending to be perfect. I'm somebody who's extremely curious about people. I love understanding why people think the way they think. I also think if I'm asking people to sit in these spaces and be honest, I have to be willing to be honest too. Expect deeper conversations, more intimate conversations, more honesty, more storytelling, more vulnerability, and probably a little bit of discomfort. Because behind every person, there's a story. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Things We Don't Talk About podcast. Wow. It actually feels good to say that again. Welcome back. If you've been following this podcast for a while, you've probably been wondering, where have you guys been? What happened? Why did the podcast suddenly go quiet? Are you guys coming back? Did something happen behind the scenes? And today, we're going to talk about it. But there's something slightly different about today's episode. Normally, there would be somebody else sitting across me. Normally, I would have a guest. I would probably be asking questions. I'd probably be listening to somebody else's story. Probably be saying, how did that make you feel? Tell me more. What happened next? Why did you make that decision? But today, there's nobody sitting across me. Today, it's just me. And you, of course, my beautiful audience. And I thought, maybe that's exactly how we should come back. Because I've spent so much time on this podcast asking other people questions, asking people to be vulnerable, asking people to tell us stories that they don't normally tell, asking people to talk about the uncomfortable things. And somewhere along the way, I realized I've never really allowed you, the audience, to probably get to know the person sitting in this chair, which is me. So today, I'm going to do something different. Today, I'm answering all the questions you guys have for me. We are going to talk about the podcast. We're going to talk about the break. We're going to talk about why I started this show. We're going to talk about what I've learned. We're going to talk about who I am outside the microphone. We are going to talk about love, fear, success, failure, relationships, growth, and even some things that I'm still trying to figure out. The things we normally don't talk about. So welcome back to Things We Don't Talk About. Let's talk. So what is things we don't talk about? I think I should probably go back to the beginning, because there may be somebody watching today who has never watched an episode before. So what is exactly things we don't talk about? The idea behind this podcast is very simple. We have so many conversations that happen in our lives, but they normally happen privately. There are conversations we have with our closest friends, conversations we have at midnight, conversations we have in WhatsApps, conversations we have sitting inside a car, conversation we often have when no one else is around. And sometimes there are conversations we don't have at all. We don't talk enough about relationships. We don't talk enough about mental health. We don't talk enough about sexuality. We don't talk enough about marriage. And we certainly don't talk enough about friendship, or cheating, or masculinity. We don't talk enough about women experiences. We don't talk enough about men experiences. We certainly don't talk enough about failure. And we don't talk enough about money and family. And sometimes we don't even talk enough about ourselves and what we go through. And that's why this platform exists. Not because I have all the answers. I definitely don't. But the people sitting across me don't necessarily have the answers either. And that's the beauty of it. We are not here pretending to be perfect or pretending that we've got life figured out. We are here to talk. We are here to listen. We are here to disagree sometimes. We're here to understand each other. And hopefully, somebody watching can say, wow, I thought I was the only person going through that. For me, that's when this podcast has done its job. Not necessarily when everybody agrees with us, but when a conversation makes someone think. When a conversation makes someone call their friend. When it makes them call their parents. Or when it makes them sit alone and have an honest conversation with themselves. That, for me, is things we don't talk about. Real conversations, unfiltered, honest conversation, and truth. Now let's deal with the elephant in the room. Where have we been? Why did we disappear? The truth is, there isn't a single reason why we disappeared. There's a number of things that happen behind the scenes: production changes, scheduling, resources, finding the right space, finding the right people, and looking at the direction of the podcast. And also, me asking myself some very difficult questions about the show. Because I got to a point where I realized I don't want us to make episodes simply because we need to upload something. I started the podcast because I wanted to have conversations, real conversations. And when I looked at where I wanted to go with the podcast, I realized something needed to change. I didn't want to do interviews. I wanted more conversation, and there's a difference, an interview and a conversation. Now let's turn the cameras around slightly. Not literally though. But let's talk about me, finally. Because one of the questions that people ask is, who is Vutomi Ngwenya when he's not hosting a podcast? That's actually more of a difficult question than it sounds. Because normally when you ask somebody, tell me about yourself, we immediately start giving them our CV and start being professional. My name is Vutomi Ngwenya. I work for a technology company. I've got a degree in information. No, that's not what I'll do today. So who is Vutomi Ngwenya? So Vutomi Ngwenya is a vibrant, ambitious, normal guy who loves to have conversation. I'm somebody who's extremely curious about people. I love understanding why people think the way they think, why we behave the way we behave, why two people can experience exactly the same situation and walk away with two completely different versions of what happened. I'm somebody who loves ideas. I'm somebody who loves building things. Whether it's within my career, my businesses, or this podcast, or other projects that I get involved, I love taking an idea that exists in someone's head and try turn it into something real. I'm very, very ambitious. And sometimes ambition can be beautiful, but ambition can also be exhausting. Because when you're ambitious, you can struggle to celebrate how far you've come because you're constantly looking at how far you still need to go. And that's something I'm still learning. To stop sometimes and look around and say, actually, we've done something beautiful here. I'm a friend. I'm a very family person. I'm somebody who values relationships deeply. I'm someone who, with strong leadership, responsibility. I believe in making a difference wherever you find yourself. Well, enough about me. We can speak a lot about me. I can write a whole memo. But most importantly, I make mistakes. I change my mind. But I learn. And sometimes I learn the hard way. Sometimes very, very hard. And I think one thing this podcast has taught me is that it's actually okay. Human beings are complicated. Munhu wa karata, including myself. Another question I get most of the time is, why did you start things we don't talk about? I think it came from noticing how many people or how people were experiencing things, how they didn't talk about them. Think about your own life. How many things have you gone through that almost nobody knew you going through? How many people have you sat across, laughing, having a good time, while something completely different was happening inside of you? How many times have you been in a relationship where nobody thought you were happy, but only the two of you inside their relationship actually knew what was happening? How many times have you disagreed with family, but you kept quiet because you didn't want conflict? How many times have you asked your parents for something, but you've never found the courage or the answer? How many friendships have ended without two people speaking to each other? It just went silent. Have you ever been with someone a day, smiling, laughing, and the next day they are gone, they committed suicide? And the question is like, but he was fine yesterday. I wanted to create a space where someone could say, this happened to me. This is what I believed. This is what I did. This is where I made a mistake. This is where somebody hurt me. This is what I learned. This is the help I need. And then somebody else watching could disagree or relate or learn something. That's how this podcast was born. And the many episodes we did, the more I realized there is no shortage of things we don't talk about. We could probably make this podcast for the next 20 years and we still have things to talk about. Here's an uncomfortable question. Am I as open in my personal life as I expect my guests to be on this podcast? No, I'm very private, extremely private. And maybe that's a little unfair because it's very easy sitting here and asking somebody else, how did that make you feel? It's much harder when somebody turns around and says, okay, Vutomi, how did that make you feel? And I've realized hosting sometimes can become a hiding place because I keep asking the questions. Nobody has time to ask me anything. Very clever, ne? I also think if I'm asking people to sit in these spaces and be honest, I have to be willing to be honest too. That doesn't mean sharing every part of my private life. I think that's important. Vulnerability does not mean having no boundaries. You can be honest and still have privacy. There are things that belong to me. There are things that involve other people. There are stories that I'm not ready to tell. And there are stories that may never belong on the internet. But where I can be honest, I want to be. Where my story can help somebody, I want to share it. And where I don't know the answer, I want to be comfortable enough saying, I don't know. Because sometimes I don't know is the most honest answer we can give. Things are very rarely as simple as they look from outside. It's easy judging people's decision when you don't know their story. It's easy saying, I would never do that, until you're standing in their situation. It's easy saying, just leave, just forgive, just forget, just move on, just communicate, or stop thinking about it. Life is rarely that simple. Life is hard. People carry childhood experiences, fear, culture, trauma, religion, family expectations, previous relationships, trauma. People carry a lot. Insecurities, drama, financial pressures, social pressures, and all of those things walk into the room with us. And when you genuinely listen to somebody, you may still agree with them, but sometimes you understand them differently and learn to live with them. Am I in a relationship? I can neither deny nor confirm. The last time I was in a relationship, I got my heart broken. I was sad. 2 days after she left me, she asked for a break. I woke up in hospital. And suddenly I could not breathe. So yeah, I've had a heartbreak. Let's talk about something I know people love to talk about. Love. Relationships. Mjolo. Somebody might ask, Vutomi, what is love to you? Hear that silence? Love is a choice. I know that might not sound very romantic, but hear me out. I believe feelings are important. Attraction is very important. Emotion is important. Chemistry matters a lot. Wanting somebody matters. Missing somebody feels natural. But feelings change. Some days you are going to be completely obsessed with your partner. Other days they're going to irritate you just by breathing. And anybody who has been in a long-term relationship knows exactly what I'm talking about. So if love is only a feeling, what happens when the feelings change? For me, love becomes a choice. A choice to respect somebody, a choice to honor somebody, a choice to communicate, a choice to show up, a choice to consider someone outside of yourself, a choice to protect the relationship. And that choice requires commitment, lots of commitment. I'm afraid of failure. And not necessarily failing me, but failing the people that actually trust me. I've failed before, I've survived. But if I fail someone who trusts me, I think I might struggle to survive. Looking back at the years and saying, I had that idea, I had that opportunity, I knew what I wanted to do, I was too scared, blah, 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 blah. That scares me. I'm also afraid of disappointing people I care about. I'm afraid of making the wrong decision sometimes. There was probably a time when success was very easy to define. Good job, money, nice car, nice house, business booming, qualifications cum laude, recognition. And all of those things can be great. There's nothing wrong with wanting them. I still have huge dreams. Very, very huge dreams. But success to me now is peace. It looks like having people who genuinely love you around you. It looks like building things you're proud of. It looks like being able to help somebody else. It looks like going home and actually liking the person you've become. Because you can win publicly and lose privately. You can have everyone applauding you while you're miserable. I don't want success that costs me everything else that makes worth living. I want success that has a meaning. I want success that creates impact. I want success that allows other people to succeed too. And I'm still working out on what that looks like. What do people misunderstand about me? A lot. I think because I'm ambitious and because I'm constantly doing things, sometimes people assume I'm extremely confident all the time. I'm not. There are moments I doubt myself. There are moments I question whether an idea will work. There are moments before I do something where I'm thinking, what if it goes terribly wrong? But I've learned that confidence isn't always, I know this is going to work. Sometimes confidence is, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm willing to try. Who am I becoming? Is Vutomi, who am I becoming? Am I becoming kinder? Am I becoming wiser? Am I becoming more patient? Am I becoming a better leader? Am I becoming a better friend? Am I becoming somebody someone can depend on? Am I being honest with myself? Achievements are important, but character matters too. And that's one of the things I want this podcast to explore more. Not just what happened to you, but what did what happened turn you into be? That's a different conversation. So, what should we expect from this new chapter of things we don't talk about? Expect deeper conversations, more intimate conversations, more honesty, more storytelling, more vulnerability, and probably a little bit of discomfort. Because that's where some of the best conversations live. I don't want people coming here feeling like they've arrived for an interview. I want somebody sitting across me and after 10 minutes forgetting that we're recording. I want laughter. I want silence. I want moments where I have to think before I even ask the next question. We are going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about love, family, friendships, sexuality, identity. We're going to talk about men, and certainly we'll talk about women. We'll talk about marriage, failure, we'll talk about success, and we'll talk about healing and pain. We'll talk about culture and faith, expectations, and probably some things that I can't even tell you about yet. But here's my promise. We are going to try to keep the conversation as honest as possible. We won't manufacture viral moments. If they happen, great. Because sometimes the most important thing somebody says isn't the loudest thing they say. Sometimes it's the sentence they almost didn't say. So, here we are, back where we belong. And maybe the biggest thing I've learned from taking this break is that silence does not always mean something is finished. Sometimes, silence means something is changing. This podcast has changed. I have changed. The team has changed. The vision has grown. And I think that's a good thing. To everyone who has watched this podcast before, thank you. To everybody who has shared an episode, thank you. To everybody who is committed, commented, sent us a message, challenged us, challenged something we said, agreed to something we said, or disagreed to something, thank you. To 360 Studios, thank you. And if this is the first episode of Things We Don't Talk About you watching, welcome. You came at the perfect time. This season, I want us to go deeper. Go deeper, Papa. I want us to laugh. I want us to disagree. But most importantly, I want us to learn. And sometimes, I want us to admit that we don't know the answer. Because behind every person, there's a story. Behind every relationship, there's a story. Behind every family, there's a story. Behind every smile, there's a story. And every single one of us has something we don't talk about. So let's talk about it. My name is Vutomi Ngwenya. This is Things We Don't Talk About, and let's talk.